Do you remember the first time you heard Hotel California? Maybe you were driving late at night, the radio crackling through the static as those haunting guitar chords filled your car. Or perhaps you were in your living room, the vinyl spinning on your turntable, and something about Don Henley's voice made you put down whatever you were doing and just listen. For those of us who lived through the 70s, that song wasn't just music. It was a soundtrack to our lives. But what if I told you that the story behind those mysterious lyrics, those unforgettable guitar harmonies, and that ending that still gives you chills, is far more personal and profound than you ever imagined? Today we're going back to 1976, to a time when the Eagles were at the height of their powers, when rock and roll still felt dangerous and transformative. We're going to uncover the real story of how a simple guitar riff recorded on a cheap cassette player became one of the most enigmatic songs in music history. We'll explore the personal struggles that inspired every line, the musical genius that created those spine-tingling harmonies, and the creative process that gave birth to a masterpiece. By the time we're done, you'll understand why Don Henley still gets emotional when he talks about this song, and why those final guitar notes hit you the same way they did all those years ago. But first, let me take you back to a beach house in Malibu, where it all began. Picture this. It's 1975, and Don Felder is sitting alone in his rented beach house in Malibu, an acoustic guitar in his hands. The Pacific Ocean stretches endlessly before him, and he's been going through one of those creative dry spells that every musician knows too well. He'd been with the Eagles for a couple of years, contributing his guitar skills to their growing success, but he was hungry to write something that was truly his own. That afternoon, something magical happened. Felder began playing a chord progression that seemed to flow out of him like water. Those haunting minor chords, that distinctive finger-picking pattern. It all came together in what he later described as an almost mystical experience. He wasn't thinking about commercial success or radio play. He was just a musician following his instincts, letting the music take him where it wanted to go. What's remarkable is that Felder almost didn't record that moment. He had an old Wollensak cassette recorder sitting nearby, one of those clunky machines we all remember from the 70s. On a whim, he pressed record and played through the progression several times, adding different guitar parts as layers. When he listened back, he knew he had something special, something that felt both beautiful and ominous, like a dream that might turn into a nightmare. The demo he made that day was rough, just acoustic, and electric guitars weaving together, but it contained the DNA of everything Hotel California would become. That distinctive 12-string guitar sound, those intertwining melodies, the sense of musical tension that never quite resolves. It was all there in that beach house recording. When Felder played the demo for Don Henley and Glenn Frey, their reaction was immediate. Henley later said he heard the entire song in his head the moment those guitars kicked in. But what really struck them was the emotional complexity of the music. It was simultaneously inviting and unsettling, beautiful and dark. It demanded lyrics that could match its sophistication. What none of them could have predicted was how personal and painful the songwriting process would become. The music Felder had created would unlock something deep within the band, forcing them to confront truths about themselves and their lives that they'd been avoiding.
So I called him the captain, just to hear them say.
If you've ever wondered why Hotel California feels so emotionally authentic, it's because Don Henley and Glenn Frey were essentially writing their own story. By 1976, the Eagles had achieved everything they dreamed of as young musicians. They had fame, fortune, critical acclaim, and legions of devoted fans. But success they were discovering came with a price that nobody had warned them about. The writing sessions for Hotel California took place over several months, often late at night when the distractions of success couldn't intrude. Henley would sit at his piano or with an acoustic guitar, working through verses while Felder's haunting demo played in the background. The imagery came from their lived experience, the luxury hotels where they stayed, the people they met, the gradual realization that they were living in a golden cage. The opening verse, with its dark desert highway and cool wind in my hair, wasn't just poetic imagery.
On a dark desert highway, rising up through the air.
It was drawn from countless drives the band members had made across the American Southwest. Those long stretches of highway where you had nothing but time to think about your life and where it was heading. The warm smell of colitis, marijuana, was a detail from their world, where recreational drugs were as common as room service. But it was the hotel itself that became their most powerful metaphor. Henley had spent enough nights in luxury accommodations to understand how they could feel both like paradise and prison. The mirrors on the ceiling, the champagne on ice, the beautiful people dancing. These weren't random details, but observations from a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt hollow from within. The line, "We are all just prisoners here, of our own device," came from a moment of brutal self-recognition.
We are all just prisoners here of our own device.
The band members realized they had created their own trap. Every contract they signed, every tour they booked, every album they agreed to make bound them more tightly to a machine they could no longer control. Glenn Frey contributed some of the song's most memorable lines, including the chilling, "You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave." He'd watched too many musicians try to escape the music business, only to find themselves drawn back by financial necessity or simple addiction to the lifestyle. The collaborative process was intense and sometimes difficult. Both Henley and Frey were perfectionists, and they spent hours debating individual words and phrases. They wanted every line to work on multiple levels, as literal description, as metaphor, and as emotional truth. The result was lyrics that felt both specific and universal, personal and mythic. What's fascinating is how the song's narrative structure mirrors the experience of listening to it. Just as the narrator is drawn into the hotel by its apparent beauty, listeners are drawn into the song by its gorgeous melodies, only to discover darker truths as the story unfolds. While Henley and Frey were crafting the lyrics, the rest of the band was working on the musical arrangement that would bring the song to life. What they created was nothing short of revolutionary. A piece of music that worked like a sonic hotel, drawing listeners in with its beauty while creating an atmosphere of inescapable unease. Don Felder's guitar work was the foundation, but it was the interplay between all the band members that made the song extraordinary. Randy Meisner's bass lines provided a steady, hypnotic pulse that kept the song grounded, while allowing the other instruments to float and weave around it. Don Henley's drumming was deceptively simple, using space and restraint to create tension rather than filling every moment with sound. The song's structure was carefully designed to mirror its lyrical journey. It begins almost intimately, with just acoustic guitar and vocals, drawing listeners into the narrator's story. As the tale unfolds, more instruments join in, electric guitars, bass, drums, until the sound becomes rich and enveloping, like the luxury of the hotel itself. But it's the guitar harmonies that really make Hotel California special. Felder and Joe Walsh, who had joined the band by the time they recorded the song, created something that hadn't been heard before in rock music. Multiple guitar parts that worked together like a choir, each voice distinct but contributing to a larger whole. They spent hours in the studio, layering guitar after guitar, creating a wall of sound that was both beautiful and overwhelming. The famous guitar solo at the end of the song deserves special mention. Rather than featuring just one guitarist showing off, it's a conversation between Felder and Walsh, their instruments weaving together in patterns that feel both composed and spontaneous. Each guitarist brings his own style. Felder's more classical, precise approach contrasting with Walsh's bluesy, emotional playing, but they blend together seamlessly. Producer Bill Shimchick played a crucial role in shaping the song's sound. He understood that Hotel California needed to feel like a place you could inhabit, not just a song you listen to. His use of reverb and echo created a sense of space and depth, making the hotel feel real and three-dimensional. The stereo mixing placed different instruments in specific locations in the soundscape so that listening on headphones felt like being inside the song. The recording process itself was meticulous. The band spent weeks getting every detail right, from the exact tone of each guitar to the precise timing of every drum hit. They knew they were creating something special, and they refused to settle for anything less than perfection. What emerged from all this careful craftsmanship was a song that worked on listeners' emotions as much as their intellect. The music didn't just support the lyrics, it embodied them, creating the same feelings of seduction and entrapment that the words described. The recording of Hotel California at Criteria Studios in Miami was unlike anything the Eagles had experienced before. By 1976, they were seasoned professionals who had made several successful albums, but this song demanded something different from them. They knew they were working on something that could define their career, and the pressure was both inspiring and terrifying. Joe Walsh had recently joined the band, bringing with him a more experimental approach to guitar playing. His chemistry with Don Felder was immediate and electric. During the guitar solo sessions, they would trade licks and build on each other's ideas, creating musical conversations that felt alive and spontaneous. Producer Bill Shimchick often had to remind them to save some energy for the actual takes, because they would get so caught up in jamming that they'd exhaust their best ideas during warm-ups. Don Henley's vocal performance was particularly remarkable. He spent days working on the delivery, trying to find the right balance between storytelling and singing. He wanted the verses to feel conversational, as if he were sitting across from you in a bar, telling you this incredible story. But the choruses needed power and emotion, building to those climactic moments where the full weight of the song's message hit home. The harmonies were another crucial element that required countless hours of work. The Eagles had always been known for their vocal blend, but Hotel California pushed them to new heights.
Welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place, such a lovely face.
Each voice had to be perfectly placed in the mix, contributing to a sound that was rich and full without becoming muddy or overwhelming. They would spend entire afternoons working on just a few bars of harmonies, getting the pitch and timing exactly right. One of the most challenging aspects of the recording was maintaining the song's dynamic arc over its nearly 7-minute length. In an era when radio hits were typically 3 to 4 minutes long, Hotel California was taking a significant commercial risk. But the band refused to compromise their artistic vision. They knew the song needed time to breathe, to tell its complete story, to take listeners on the full emotional journey. The guitar overdubs were particularly complex. Felder and Walsh layered guitar after guitar, creating a tapestry of sound that was both intricate and powerful. Some parts were barely audible in the mix, adding texture and atmosphere rather than melody. Others cut through clearly, providing hooks and musical signposts. The final guitar solo featured both musicians playing simultaneously, their parts interweaving in patterns that sound composed but were largely improvised. What's remarkable is how patient everyone was willing to be with the process. In today's music industry, the pressure to work quickly and efficiently often prevents artists from fully exploring their ideas. But the Eagles and their producer understood they were creating something special, and they gave it all the time and attention it deserved. The result was a recording that captured not just the song's notes and rhythms, but its emotional essence. Every element, from Henley's vocals to the layered guitars to the subtle percussion touches, contributed to a unified whole that was greater than the sum of its parts.
Rising up through the air.
What made Hotel California truly special wasn't just the individual performances, but the way the band members connected with each other and with the song itself. By 1976, the Eagles had been through enough together, the early struggles, the breakthrough success, the personal conflicts, that they had developed an almost telepathic musical communication. You can hear this chemistry most clearly in the rhythm section. Don Henley's drumming and Randy Meisner's bass playing locked together with a precision that only comes from years of playing together. But it's not mechanical precision. It's the kind of musical telepathy that allows for subtle variations and spontaneous moments while maintaining the song's hypnotic groove. The guitar interplay between Felder and Walsh was particularly magical. These were two very different musicians. Felder with his classical training and technical precision, Walsh with his blues background and intuitive approach, but they found a common language in Hotel California. During the extended solo section, you can hear them responding to each other's musical ideas, building on phrases and creating counter-melodies that feel both planned and spontaneous. Don Henley's vocal performance deserves special recognition. Singing lead vocals while playing drums is challenging under any circumstances, but Hotel California demanded both rhythmic precision and emotional nuance. Henley had to tell the song's story clearly while maintaining the complex drum patterns that drove the song forward. His ability to do both simultaneously while making it sound effortless is a testament to his skill as a complete musician. The vocal harmonies showcased the band's collective musical intelligence. Each member contributed to the overall vocal sound, not just in the obvious places, but in subtle background vocals and harmony parts that add richness and depth to the recording. These weren't just pretty decorations. They were integral to the song's emotional impact. What's particularly impressive is how well the performance serves the song's narrative structure.
She got the Mercedes Benz in your alibis.
The band understood that they weren't just playing music. They were telling a story, and every musical choice had to support that storytelling. The way the intensity builds gradually through the verses, the dramatic pause before the final chorus, the extended instrumental outro that feels like an escape attempt, every moment was carefully crafted to enhance the song's emotional journey. This level of musical sophistication and emotional commitment is what separated Hotel California from other songs of its era. The Eagles weren't just skilled musicians playing their parts, they were artists collaborating to create something that would outlast any individual career or personal ambition. If there's one element of Hotel California that has inspired countless musicians over the decades, it's the guitar work. The interplay between Don Felder and Joe Walsh in the song's extended outro created a template for guitar harmony that influenced everyone from Thin Lizzy to Iron Maiden to countless garage bands around the world. What made their approach so revolutionary was the way they treated the guitars as separate voices in a conversation rather than as a single lead instrument with accompaniment. Felder would play a phrase, and Walsh would answer with a complementary line. Then, they would build on each other's ideas, creating musical dialogues that felt spontaneous even though they were carefully crafted. The technical aspects of their playing were impressive, but what really made it special was the emotional content. Both guitarists understood that the solo section needed to serve the song's story. This wasn't just an opportunity to show off their chops. It was the musical embodiment of the narrator's attempt to escape from the hotel. The soaring highs and desperate runs weren't random displays of virtuosity. They were expressions of human emotion translated into musical language. Don Felder's contribution was rooted in his classical training and his meticulous approach to arrangement. He thought of guitar parts the way a composer thinks of orchestral voices, with each line serving a specific harmonic and melodic function. His parts provided the structural foundation that allowed Walsh's more intuitive playing to soar. Joe Walsh brought a different sensibility to the mix. His blues background and his willingness to take risks gave the solos their emotional edge. Where Felder was precise and controlled, Walsh was expressive and spontaneous. The tension between these two approaches created a dynamic that was both musically sophisticated and emotionally powerful. The recording process for the guitar solos was itself a lesson in musical collaboration. Rather than recording separate parts and layering them together, Felder and Walsh often played simultaneously, feeding off each other's energy and ideas. This created a spontaneity and interaction that wouldn't have been possible with overdubbing alone. The influence of these guitar parts can be heard in rock music to this day. Countless guitarists have cited the Hotel California solos as inspirational, not just for their technical brilliance, but for their demonstration of how multiple guitars can work together to create something greater than either could achieve alone. What's perhaps most remarkable is how the guitar work serves the song rather than overwhelming it. In less skilled hands, such elaborate guitar arrangements could have become self-indulgent displays that distracted from the song's message. But Felder and Walsh understood that their role was to enhance the story, not overshadow it. Nearly 50 years after its release, Hotel California continues to move listeners in ways that few songs can match. There's something about the combination of its musical beauty and lyrical complexity that speaks to fundamental human experiences that transcend any particular time or place. For those of us who lived through the 70s, the song captures something essential about that era. The sense that the dreams of the 60s had curdled into something more complicated and ambiguous. But younger listeners who discover the song today often express surprise at how contemporary it feels, how relevant its themes remain to their own lives. The song's emotional power comes partly from its honesty. Don Henley and Glenn Frey weren't writing about other people's problems or abstract social issues. They were examining their own lives, their own choices, their own struggles with success and its consequences. That personal authenticity gives the song a weight and credibility that more calculated compositions often lack. The musical arrangement reinforces this emotional honesty. Every element of the song, from the hypnotic rhythm section to the layered guitars to the soaring harmonies, serves to draw listeners into the narrator's emotional state.
Running for the door, living it up at the hotel.
You don't just hear the story, you experience it, feeling the seduction of the hotel and the growing realization that escape might be impossible. The song powerfully captures the complexity of adult life. There are no clear heroes or villains. The hotel is both alluring and haunting, the people both victims and enablers, and the story ends without resolution, reflecting how life rarely offers simple answers. It also speaks to a universal truth, how we can become trapped by our own choices. The hotel is a metaphor for any life that looks perfect on the outside but feels hollow inside. Don Henley's intimate vocals add emotional depth, making it feel like a personal confession rather than a judgment. When he sings, "We are all just prisoners here, of our own device," it resonates with lived experience. The song's extended guitar outro offers emotional release, an escape from the song's tight narrative into something more free and expressive, blending freedom with resignation. As we look back on Hotel California from the perspective of today, what's most remarkable is how it has grown in stature over time. Many hit songs from the 70s now sound dated, tied too closely to their era to maintain relevance. But Hotel California seems to become more meaningful with age, revealing new layers of complexity to each generation of listeners. The song's influence on other musicians has been profound and lasting. You can hear its DNA in everything from progressive rock epics to country ballads to modern alternative music. The guitar harmonies that Felder and Walsh created have become a standard technique in rock music, while the song's structural sophistication has inspired countless artists to push beyond the boundaries of conventional pop songwriting. But perhaps more importantly, Hotel California demonstrated that popular music could be both commercially successful and artistically ambitious. At a time when the music industry was becoming increasingly corporate and formulaic, the Eagles proved that audiences would respond to songs that challenged them intellectually and emotionally. The song's enduring popularity also speaks to the power of great storytelling. In an age of diminishing attention spans and bite-sized entertainment, Hotel California continues to hold listeners' attention for nearly 7 minutes, taking them on a complete emotional journey. It reminds us that some experiences can't be compressed or simplified. They require time and patience to fully appreciate.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
For the Eagles themselves, Hotel California became both a blessing and a burden. It established them as one of the greatest bands in rock history, but it also set a standard that would be difficult to match. Don Henley has said that he's proud of the song, but sometimes wishes people would pay equal attention to their other work. Hotel California has taken on a life of its own, endlessly covered, sampled, and reinterpreted. Its enduring appeal lies in its emotional honesty and rich layers, making it more than just a song. It's a reflection on fame, desire, and disillusionment. Born from a simple guitar riff, it became a collaborative masterpiece that resonates with anyone grappling with the gap between dreams and reality. Rather than pushing a message, the Eagles offered a raw, truthful exploration of their own lives, which made the song universally relatable. Today, those iconic chords connect generations, reminding us that great art doesn't explain life. It helps us feel less alone in it. That's the true legacy of Hotel California, not what it means, but what it evokes. Most of all, you're hearing the sound of great music doing what great music has always done, helping us understand ourselves and our world a little better, one note at a time. If this deep dive into the story behind Hotel California has given you a new appreciation for this timeless masterpiece, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below and tell me about your own memories with this song, where you first heard it, what it means to you, or which part of the story surprised you most. And if you enjoyed uncovering the truth behind one of rock's greatest mysteries, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the songs that shaped our lives. There are so many more musical secrets waiting to be told.